What's up, everybody? How you guys doing? Hey, welcome to One-on-One at One. I'm Josh. I'm the student pastor here at Compass Roanoke. Really glad to see you guys. I hope your Monday has started off really good. Even though there's been a little bit of rain, it's okay. We love it. Hey, so talking today a little bit about, we're going to talk a little bit about fear. And fear is something that I think there's a lot of people right now that are dealing with fear. Because there's a lot of stuff that's unknown. The future's uncertain, which, if you think about it, the future's always uncertain. That part really hasn't changed. But there's obviously some other things going on, clearly, with the pandemic and all that causes a lot of fear. I once heard someone say that fear is like an acronym, and it's future events appearing real. That's fear, which I thought is kind of interesting, because if I think about the things that I'm afraid of, and fear is something that I do struggle with. If I think about the things that I have fear about, most of those things are kind of ridiculous. Some of those things, it's highly unlikely that they would ever happen. I remember when I was a junior higher, I remember hearing this missionary talk, and they were a missionary in Africa, and I was terrified. It was amazing what God was doing, but I was terrified. I was like, please, God, don't send me to Africa. Because I was afraid that if I got sent to Africa, I would get beheaded and then I would get eaten, which is absolutely ridiculous. I don't know why I was worried about getting eaten after I was getting beheaded, because clearly I wouldn't have known, but that's totally a separate thing. But it was just a goofy fear. Now, I'm not saying that it's not to make light of people who are in Africa that are getting persecuted, because that does happen. There are people in other countries of the world that get persecuted and die for their faith, and that's an amazing thing to die for Jesus, who died for us. But as a junior higher, the fear that I had was completely unrealistic, and a lot of the fears that I have now and the fears that I struggle with, they're not very likely. Some of them are kind of goofy, but they are fears that I do struggle with. And sometimes fear can be kind of paralyzing. I know right now there's people that are fearful that they are going to lose their jobs because their businesses are closed. There's fear because there's families that are really stressed out. And so there's a lot of fear surrounding those things. I think of the things that I do, things that help me when I am fearful. Pray. I pray a lot about that, and one of the most widely used commands in the Bible when God shows up or an angel shows up is don't be afraid. And so that's why I say don't be afraid. I remind myself of that. I pray a lot about not being afraid. So I talk to God a lot about it. Another thing that I do is I talk to somebody else about it that I love. I can talk to my wife about it, like, hey, I'm fearful about this, and we'll pray together. I also talk to you can also talk to people you can trust. I talk to my counselor about it, like, hey, I pray, I have these fears, and we talk about that, and that helps to reason those things out. There's two go-to verses that I have that I want to share with you about fear. The first one is in the book of Isaiah in the Old Testament, and it's in chapter 41, and it's verses 9 and 10. It says, "You whom I took from the ends of the earth and called you from its farthest corners, saying to you, you are my servant. I have chosen you and not cast you off. Fear not." There it is. "For I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." The other one is in the New Testament, in the book of 1 John. 1 John chapter 4, verse 18. It says, "There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear. For fear has to do with punishment. But whoever fears has not been perfected in love." It says there's no fear in love. Perfect love casts out fear. And I know that God loves us with a perfect love. And so I know I can trust in God to cast out that fear. I hope you guys, if you are struggling with fear, you reach out. Talk to a family member. You can talk to me, talk to your small group leader, talk to friends. If you have a counselor, you can talk to your counselor about it. But talk to Jesus about it. Because He will cast out your fear, and He will save you from that. But it's something the more we talk about it, I think that's a good thing. That's a healthy thing to talk about those things. But I want to encourage you today, like, you don't have to be afraid. Don't be afraid. God's got this. Whatever the situation is, Jesus has us taken care of. So I want to encourage you tomorrow. Tune in tomorrow at one-on-one at 1, because we're going to talk about courage. Not just not living in fear, but living in courage. I love you guys. I hope you have an awesome day. I'll see you tomorrow.